a comment, or asking a question. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on today's agenda or on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction. If you would like to comment at today's meeting, please complete the request to speak form located on the meeting room counter. MAG staff can assist with asking with any questions you may have. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available on the meeting room counter. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. Move on to our next agenda item, which is a call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under MAG's jurisdiction that are not on the agenda, informational items, or items on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience unless the chair requests an exception to this limit. I have not received any requests to speak call to the audience. MAG also provides the opportunity for members of the public to submit written comments via the MAG's website. Any comments received 2 hours prior to the meeting have been shared with the committee members in advance of the meeting for consideration and will be included in the formal meeting minutes. MAG staff, have we received any online written comments for the call to the audience?
Madam Chair, no written comments were received.
Thank you. We will move on to item number 3. Our next item is approval of the January 23, 2025 meeting minutes. Does any member of the committee have any questions? Hearing none, prior to approval of the meeting minutes, there is an opportunity for members of the public to comment. I have not received any request for this agenda item. MAG staff, have you received any online written comments for this item?
Madam Chair, no written comments were received.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve agenda item number 3?
So moved, Tim Connor.
Thank you, Tim.
I'll second Amy Baker.
And Amy Baker will second. We have a motion from Tim Connor and a second from Amy Baker. A roll call vote will be taken again at this time by Lisa Young.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, when I call your name, please state your vote. Walter Bouchard.
Yes.
Thank you. Vince Wolford. Kelly McKenzie.
Aye.
Thank you. Jun Wanju.
Aye.
Tom Ekron.
Aye.
Kim Anderson. Kenya Lugo Wade.
Aye.
Thank you. Mark Ortiz.
Yeah.
Thank you. Romare Truly. Ron Gritman. Hondo Judd.
Aye.
Thank you. Amy Baker.
Aye.
Thank you. Monica Rabb.
Aye.
Thank you. Spencer Camps. Rick Williams.
Aye.
Thank you. Kim Butler.
Aye.
Thank you. Nicole Clements.
Aye.
Thank you. Jennifer Brickner.
Aye.
Thank you. Justin Byrne. Nancy Allen. Thank you. Anu Jane.
Yes.
Thank you. Chair Simpson.
Aye.
Thank you. Stephanie Lane.
Yes.
Thank you. Brian Templeton.
Aye.
Thank you. Tim Connor.
Aye.
Thank you. Brody Lynn.
Aye.
Thank you. Jonathan Fudge.
Aye.
Thank you. John Woods.
Aye.
Thank you. Aaron Daughtery.
Aye.
Thank you. Mike Chamberlain.
Aye.
Thank you. Arden Holloway.
Aye.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Madam Chair, the motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item number 4. This is the Maricopa County Air Quality Department Burn Cleaner, Burn Better 2024 campaign. This item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Ari Halpert, Maricopa County Air Quality Department.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to take the opportunity today, and thank you for giving it to me, to provide a quick recap of our last 2024 winter campaign, Burn Cleaner, Burn Better. As you may know, this campaign aims to raise awareness about the negative health effects of breathing polluted air caused by wood smoke and encourage Maricopa County residents and businesses to prevent the use of wood burning and opt for cleaner burning alternatives. So I just wanted to share with you what we did this last campaign and how we aim to improve marketing strategies for the 2025 Burn Cleaner, Burn Better campaign. Next slide. So the 2024 Burn Cleaner, Burn Better campaign, or BCBB for short, launched November 1st, 2024, and ended January 2nd in 2025. Part of our marketing included television and radio broadcasting, which involved ABC 15, Arizona's Family, and iHeartRadio in English and in Spanish. We also filmed segments that ran throughout the run of the campaign for ABC 15's Sonoran Living show. And it involved 3 separate segments, one 10-minute segment and 2 1-minute segments, providing tips for the public on how to opt for cleaner burning alternatives and the health effects of wood burning. We also included digital media, which involved web page takeovers, app opens, email blasts, and social media posts. Next slide. We increased social media communication as we have done in the past. These were often targeted posts, scheduled daily posts on all of our social media platforms, which include Instagram, Facebook, X, or formerly Twitter, Nextdoor, and LinkedIn. And we tracked our post impressions weekly. Our content involved the notifications for no burn days or high pollution advisory alerts, scheduled reels, infographics, and informational videos. We also collaborated with ADEQ to provide education on the effects and what is PM 2.5 and PM 10, and offering tips as well. We also promoted our incentive programs for our fireplace retrofit program, fire pit program, and mowing down pollution program. Next slide. Additional components involved our website, which was revamped and redesigned the previous year to meet Maricopa County graphic standards. Our website for this campaign was directed to maricopa.gov/AQ Burn Better. We included an online campaign collateral kit, toolkit, which could be used by any of our partners and collaborators to share within their organization. Again, social media, blurbs, and graphics. We also did media interviews, news release, virtual presentations, department outreach events, parking lot banners at Mesa Riverview Shopping Mall, and we conducted a clean air campaign awareness survey at the end of the campaign, which I'll share just a few of the results in the following slides. We collaborated with our partners, which included Maricopa County's newsletters, internal and external, government agencies, cities and towns, the Valley Metro Light Rail Wrap, ADOT signs, and ADEQ. Next slide. Our Clean Air mobile app, which was redesigned from our previous Clean Air Make More app, was officially launched. This involved a complete redesign and included a more robust user experience. The air quality forecast would now show 5 days in advance, as well as new features that included informational videos, links to our complaint line, and more. And it's free to download on Android and iPhones. And it's available now. If anyone already had the Clean Air Make More app on their phone, all they needed to do was refresh it or re-download, and it would show the new app. Next slide, please. So when we conducted our Clean Air Awareness Survey, this survey will be conducted moving forward once a year and includes questions that provide insight into how well our marketing strategies worked throughout the county for all of our campaigns, which include the Care for Clean Air, Be Idle Free campaign component of our Commit to One Day ozone campaign and Burn Cleaner, Burn Better. The survey ran from January 21st to February 7th, and we received 486 responses. 73.8% of survey takers have lived in Maricopa County for over 10 years. The top 3 cities represented in results are City of Phoenix, Scottsdale, and Mesa. 40.2% of the survey takers were in the 65 plus age group, and 85.5% are familiar with the meaning of a high pollution advisory or a no burn day. Next slide. So when we asked how likely are you to commit to each of the following tips to help reduce air pollution, we included tips that pertain to reducing ozone and avoiding idling, as well as burning wood. So to make it relevant for this presentation, I focused on this specific portion of how likely were survey takers to not burn wood or opt for cleaner burning alternatives. 50% of survey takers said they already do this, while 5% said they are very unlikely to do so. So those are the survey takers and the residents that we really want to focus on for the following campaign. Next slide, please. When we asked in terms of marketing, how did you hear about any of the campaigns? Please note that survey takers were able to pick more than one option. Therefore, it doesn't necessarily add to 100, or not necessarily, not at all. But we wanted to see where the message was being promoted and received. We noticed that television and our website were the highest in these options, as well as our freeway signage. And we attribute that, of course, to when we promote or alert that there is a no burn day or high pollution advisory day. Next slide, please. So with that said, I just wanted to inform all of you that at the moment, we are promoting our Care for Clean Air, Be Idle Free campaign. And this campaign aims to promote being idle free and inform residents of the effects of idling their vehicle during drive-through lanes, school pickups, airport pickup and drop-offs. Next slide, please. And that's what we're promoting right now. This is a component of our Commit to One Day ozone campaign, and we have chosen to promote this during the cooler months of the year, so our message is well received, and we're not, trying to get people to sit in the hot sun in their car. And so once we start experiencing much hotter weather is when we transition to our Commit to One Day campaign. So we launched this campaign January 3rd and will run until March 31st of this year. Again, it'll be similar components to all of our other campaigns, including a website, maricopa.gov/AQ idle free, television and radio broadcasting, as again with ABC 15, Arizona's Family, and iHeartRadio, social media communication. The Valley Metro Light Rail Wrap is already up. Sky Harbor International Airport has put up idle-free signage on all of their cell phone parking lots, and Maricopa County newsletters, internal and external. Next slide, please. Oh, we can skip this one. It's the video, but I'm not sure there's sound. So. These are examples of our marketing that I mentioned in the previous slide. That's what our light rail wrap looks like, our parking lot banners, and the Sky Harbor Airport signage. Next slide. As per usual, we want to encourage our partners and collaborators in our community to help us promote this message, specifically identifying frequent idling zones within your organization. Encourage your staff to create idle-free parking zones, share educational flyers within your organization, and help promote the idle-free campaign via newsletters, social media, and other outreach materials. Of course, if you have any other ideas how we can help your organization help us promote this message, I am available at any time. You can email me or call me, and I can provide you with creative or collateral that's not available on our website, or we can come up with new ideas that would be specific to your organization. Next slide. Well, thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Ari. Do any members have any questions or comments?
So this is Nancy with Phoenix. I'm curious how often and how frequently your incentives are used, the fireplace retrofit and some of the others. How many, I mean, do you often utilize all of those every year? Do you see an uptake of people utilizing those incentives during these campaigns?
Yes, this year, November, December, we did see an uptick of residents signing up for the fire pit program, more so than we have seen before. The fireplace retrofit program recently expanded their boundaries, and we did see an increase in that. However, we're limited to the amount of residents that actually have a wood-burning fireplace that has a existing gas line. I'm not quite sure the final number for the fireplace retrofit program for this year, but we have seen a slight uptick, just not quite what we would like. So it takes a lot more promotion. However, when we do promote it during our commercials or even television interviews, we see more residents signing up for these programs. And the Mowing Down Pollution program runs all year. I don't have those numbers. I can get those to you, but it ebbs and flows throughout the year. And it depends on when we really promote it or not.
That's what I was just curious, how the county can partner more with cities to promote some of that for us to get that. And then you can track, I guess, get more uptake on that. So, because it would be great if you spent down those programs every year, you had so many people taking advantage. That would be
absolutely. We encourage every county resident to take advantage of these programs. And of course, we always invite our partners and collaborate with us to dispel this message. We do believe that, of course, the more organizations that get involved in promoting these programs, the more, at least residents get to know what they are about and how they can take advantage and how easy it is to sign up for them. So we encourage everyone to help us promote these messages as well as our campaigns.
Great. Any other comments or questions? Thank you very much, Ari. We appreciate the county and the efforts that you all are making.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, our next item is on the agenda for information and discussion and will be presented by Matt Frazier and Jake Swanson from Arizona State University on ground level ozone research project.
Thank you very much for the invitation to come and talk to this group today. We really appreciate getting the word out. And while I'm the one here representing and doing the talking, it is a culmination of a lot of work from a number of individuals. I'd like to acknowledge Jake Swanson and Gary Dirks and Kelly Barr from the Global Futures Lab at ASU. But we also had a very broad stakeholder group, including Matt Poppin from MAG, representatives from ADEQ, Maricopa County Air Quality Department, US EPA, both Region 9 and the Office of Research Development, as well as the University of Arizona. So it really is a representation of work from a number of individuals. Next slide. So the culmination of this work is going to be a field study conducted this summer of 2025 during the ozone season. And this really resulted as a realization that while a number of years ago we saw continuous decreases in the emissions of ozone precursors and then a corresponding decrease in the number of violations of the ozone standard here in Phoenix. In the recent years, while the emissions have continued to come down, ozone levels have not. And so there's this discrepancy between the emission estimates and the apparent atmospheric behavior. So we started to pull together a scientific hypotheses, which I'll show you in just a second, to investigate what the causes for this was. And so let's just go to the next slide. And I'm not going to read all of these to you, but the hypotheses deal around a number of questions that we want to answer, including the role of transport from outside the region, the role of wildfires, the contribution of NOx versus VOC within the volatile organic compounds, the contribution of biogenic versus anthropogenic, the accuracy of emission inventories, as well as potential for aloft ozone intrusion, meaning ozone coming into the region from the upper atmosphere and not just from the surface. So with these scientific hypotheses, we came together with the types of measurements and the spatial distribution of measurements and the temporal resolution that we really needed. And that's shown here on the next slide. Oh, sorry, this is just a summary. So we're actually going to increase the measurements at 7 different sites that I'll show you in just a second to measure hourly volatile organic compounds, hourly formaldehyde specifically, nitrogen oxides or NOx, as well as NOY, which includes nitric acid. We're also going to be looking at atmospheric, upper atmospheres using ozone lidars, which are sensors that use light to measure ozone, not just at the surface, but through the air column. And the measurements are going to be carried out by Sonoma Technologies. Sonoma is the prime contractor to ADEQ for the existing photochemical assessment monitoring at JGL. So it made sense to partner with them, as well as NASA is going to bring in the ozone lidars. The universities, Arizona State and University of Arizona, are focused on the data analysis and the data interpretation, as well as modeling to support MAG's SIP development and the weight of evidence arguments that are included in that. So if you go to the next slide, the sites are shown here. So the yellow stars represent just the Auto GC, which is also going to be outfitted for formaldehyde, NOx, and NOY. And going from the west up at Alamo Lake in the northwest corner of this map, that's a ADEQ site. Then at Buckeye, which is a Maricopa County site, we're going to do those measurements as well as this ozone lidar to look at upper atmospheric transport. Then in the urban core, we're going to do Durango, as well as the existing site at JGL, which is an ADEQ site, which is already under contract for measurements. But then we also wanted to look downwind. And so the general transport is from the west to the east. And so we're going to be putting measurements at Fountain Hills, the Higley site, and then Queen Valley. So Queen Valley is also an ADEQ site. So what we're targeting is we're targeting deployment by mid-April. The ozone season usually starts heating up about May 1st. We want to be out in the field early to try to get the bugs worked out of any monitoring systems and get ready for the expected periods of highest levels of ozone in May, June, July, August, and September, and then we will wrap up in October. So if you go to the next slide, then the question is, what are the universities doing it? So Sonoma Tech and NASA are going to be doing the monitoring. Of course, this data is going to be then rapidly translated over to the existing SIP plan, which has to go in January 2026. So we will be working on that data translation to answer some of the questions that MAG has as they prepare the SIP. But then from the universities, and speaking from a university, some of the things that we're going to be focusing on include the identification of wood smoke episodes, doing some understanding of the ozone chemistry. Since ozone comes both from VOCs and NOx, you have to understand the chemistry between those two. We're going to be doing some regional modeling using MorphChem. It's different than the regulatory model. So these are not the regulatory models that go into the SIP, but this is designed to help corroborate and augment the analysis from this regulatory models. And then we're having a focus on biogenics. And I imagine the community here knows that biogenics are an important and uncontrollable source of volatile organic compounds. So that's why we're focusing on that and using the regulatory model, which estimates those emissions. That's called Megan. So if you go on the next slide, let me just talk about some of these for your information, and then focus on the wood smoke. It's becoming quite apparent that wood smoke is a major contributor to ozone exceedances here. The standard approach to look at wood smoke episodes are to look at ozone exceedance days first, and any ozone exceedance day that has evidence of wood smoke transport, to then put together the argument that these are exceptional circumstances and should not be included in the regulatory air quality data sets, which makes a lot of sense from a regulatory perspective. We took a different perspective. We looked at all days. Instead of just focusing on the exceedance days, we looked at all days. And we looked at a variety of different metrics for how we can identify smoke coming into the region. We looked at the NOAA hazard mapping systems. NOAA every day prepares a hazard mapping system where they actually draw polygons of regions impacted by wood smoke based on satellite imagery. We looked at the NASA MIRA-2, which is a reanalysis of ambient air quality data sets to try to understand when the air quality appeared to be worse than could be expected under standard conditions. As well as a number of other things that didn't work for us. We looked at the high split model, which is a back trajectory model. We looked at the NCAR FIN fire emission national something, which is an inventory of fire emissions. But we kind of came down with this approach. And in the next slide, we started to look at what's the impact of wood smoke. And we looked at, days where there's no evidence of wood smoke, which are our no smoke days. And then we looked at smoke days, or days that there is evidence of smoke. The data showed a clear difference between what we're calling first smoke, which is the first day of an episode, and then subsequent days. So on the first day, the ozone doesn't increase quite as much as it does on the subsequent days, but it does make a difference, both on the regional ozone levels. There's a variety of different figures here kind of showing how much that could be, but it's on the order of up to 10 ppb, which is quite significant, specifically from a regulatory perspective on the subsequent days. So that's why regional wood smoke is so important. So let me talk a little bit about ozone chemistry and some of the work that we've done on ozone chemistry on the next slide. We started with satellite data. In satellite data, there's a series of new satellite imagery from the ESA, the European Space Agency, looking at specifically NO2, nitrogen dioxide, and formaldehyde, because those two have a very strong signature. NO2 is that brown color you sometimes see here in the summer. So using that, they did an analysis of formaldehyde and NO2. So if you kind of look at the middle there, that's the NO2. It's primarily traffic generated, which is why it's so concentrated around urban Phoenix. And if you look at the other data on the left-hand side, that's formaldehyde. It's a little bit more spread, partly because formaldehyde is formed as a reaction product of biogenic emissions. But then if you look at the kind of the farthest on the right-hand side, that's the ratio of formaldehyde to NO2. That's important because that determines whether you're what we call VOC limited or NOx limited regimes. VOC limited means that the limiting reagent that's forming ozone is VOCs. So the most important of control would be VOC control. So that only happens kind of in the urban core of the region because that's where you have so much of the NOx emissions. Most of the surrounding region does appear to be NOx limited. Now you see the little purple triangle there. That's the Phoenix JLG site. That's where most of the VOC measurements, actually all of the VOC measurements that we have access to right now are taken. And you can see that it might not be representative for the region as a whole. If you go to the next slide, we did some deeper dives into this, and not just looking at the satellite data, but actually looking at ground-based data. And this is data. On the left is actual air quality data. On the right are models of air quality based on the WRF-Chem model from the University of Arizona. I won't spend too much more time on this, but again, we see some interesting dynamics. And while the satellite gives you a picture at one point in time, because the JLG site continuously measures formaldehyde, we do see a difference. And we see that overnight, the chemistry would be indicated as VOC limited, but the chemistry doesn't occur at night. The chemistry occurs when we have sunlight. And that's kind of the orange dots there. And that's the samples collected in the middle of the day. And so the solid orange dots and then the open orange dots are days impacted by smoke. It does appear either to be transition limited or NOx limited. And again, all this has to do with the analysis for what is the most important compounds to focus regulations on going forward. On the next slide, let me just talk a little bit about biogenics. We've been doing a lot of work on biogenics. Again, biogenics are one of the more important sources of volatile organic compounds. They're not considered controllable because no one's proposing cutting down trees, so we have to understand the emissions. So what we focused at ASU on doing is to do a sensitivity analysis of the Megan model. So working with Matt's group at MAG, we've been running the Megan model. So the Megan model is the model that predicts the emissions of biogenic hydrocarbons. And we wanted to say, why is it that this model is predicting so many biogenic emissions specific in Phoenix? So if you look at the table there, I won't go through all of the details of it, but what we did is we changed all the environmental parameters: photosynthetic, solar radiation, temperature, soil moisture, wind speed, rain accumulation, water vapor mixing ratios, all of these things that people have shown impact biogenic emissions. But by far the most impactful is temperature. And if you simply increase the temperature by 1%, which, because it's in Kelvin, it represents about a 3 degrees centigrade increase in temperature, the biogenic emissions are predicted to go up almost 50%. So if you go to the next slide, on the right here, this just shows you the full analysis for the summer of 2024. So we've done all the runs for the summer of 2024. You see that starting in April and May, the mean daily temperature across the non-attainment area is relatively modest for Phoenix, and the emissions are predicted to be relatively low. But as the temperatures increase into June, July, and specifically August, where you're up to mean daily temperature of about 35 degrees C, the emissions get quite dramatically higher. And so the reason that Megan is predicting so many emissions is because it's so hot here in Phoenix, putting vegetation in a state where it is emitting this naturally occurring hydrocarbon called isoprene. So that's the model, and we wanted to verify this model. So we've been doing a lot of field work. So on the next slide, we've been doing field work. Thanks very much to Maricopa County, who allowed us to use their West Phoenix monitoring site. We went out and did eddy covariance. So if you're not familiar with eddy covariance is a technique that partners atmospheric motion measurements, so measuring the movement of the atmosphere, and then the concentration of the pollutant of interest. You have to do this very quickly. You have to make 10 measurements per second of atmospheric motion and atmospheric gas concentrations. So that's not easy for a compound like isoprene. It's easy for something like carbon dioxide, which is what most of the eddy covariance measurements have been focused on. But we wanted to extrapolate it to isoprene, so we used our proton transfer reaction mass spec, which is the device shown kind of in the photo and the furthest to the right. Can't really see it, but it's a large instrument which continuously pulls air in, ionizes all of the hydrocarbons, and then measures the mass signature of each of those compounds. In the center is the eddy covariance, which is measuring the atmospheric motion. That's 23 meters above the surface of the West Phoenix site, and you see one of the students actually climbing up the tower to install our inlet there on the left. And I won't leave you in too much suspense any longer and show you the data from this flux measurements. We're still kind of analyzing this, so we have done a presentation on the next slide. This is from a meeting just last week down in Tucson for Lycor. Lycor is the main company that supplies eddy covariance measurements. we have two different measurement campaigns. We wanted to go early in the summer when we expected the biogenic emissions to be relatively low. That's shown on the left from April 30th to the 2nd of May in 2004. And then we wanted to go out in the heat of the summer. So we chose late July when the temperatures were more in the 40s than they were in the 30s. And then you see the top is the isoprene concentration. It has a standard diurnal variability where you only have emissions during sunlight hours and 0 at nighttime. And then the bottom, the data that looks so messy is the flux. Eddy covariance is known to be very prone to having a lot of data because you're collecting 10 measurements per second. So the data looks quite noisy. And so that's why we don't actually have numbers on those yet. I mean, we do have numbers. We're not showing the numbers here simply because we're still analyzing all of the data, but we hope to have those results published relatively soon going forward. So that's all I had as far as the information on the upcoming field study. On the next slide, I think it's just to acknowledge the work that the Global Futures Lab has done in convening the stakeholders together, getting us all to have a communication about what measurements and what science needs to be done to help support MAG and the SIP process, and then also to go out and secure the funding for that. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Matt. And Jake, I know you're here. People might not see you, but available to answer any questions. So do members have any questions or comments?
What's the timeline?
So we are hoping to be out April 15th, making measurements at those 7 sites. Sonoma Tech is already obligated to do the measurements at JGL. That's the standard photochemical assessment monitoring that happens every year. So we're adding 6 sites. We want to be out by April 15th so that we're ready by May 1st for the real ozone season this year.
And then when will you be back here to tell us what you found? And when do you expect to know anything from all that data?
We're working very closely with MAG. MAG is under timeline to do a SIP submission in January 2026. We won't have all the science done by January 2026, but we're focused on the data that can go in for the weight of evidence argument, which is part of the SIP, as quickly as we can. Matt, if you want to.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So this one thing I would say too is this study is a pretty big deal. And so thank you to ASU for kind of spearheading it, and ADEQ, who really kind of prompted ASU to spearhead it. That our region was able to raise almost $6 million is pretty unprecedented too for this study, which is what this is costing. So we're really excited about it. Other areas throughout the country are watching what we're finding as well. But we are going to be building the plane as we're flying it, right? So we're going to be trying to interpret all this data as it comes in. We're going to be utilizing ASU, UA professors, and we're going to be analyzing it in-house as well. So if we see things that are of note, like if we're able to see a clear wildfire signature, or if we're able to see clear signatures of transport or unique understandings about that VOC NOx chemistry, we hope to bring it to the committee as soon as we have some semblance of being able to do that. So these studies, there's always issues with these studies, and I don't think any of us expect to have a silver bullet in regards to ozone, but I think this really will advance our knowledge and will help us, folks like you on the committee, have a little bit more confidence on when we talk about control measures, if it makes sense to do them moving forward. So yeah, as that data comes in, as we're analyzing it, we're going to try and keep the committee updated on what we're finding.
Well, thank you. It's very ambitious. I'm glad I'm not doing it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the committee members? Well, I have to say thank you as well. Been on this committee for a long, long time, and I'm not a scientist, but I always understood that biogenics and then wood smoke had a big effect, and we've really made great strides on both PM 2.5, PM 10, and ozone, and we're like, what else, right? So this will help possibly support what else could we do that could have any effect. So we really appreciate the efforts, and thank you very much.
Can I ask one?
Oh, yes, go ahead,
Matt?
Nancy.
So the SIP is due January 2026?
That's the assumption. That's the current regulatory framework that exists. The new administration might change that. We haven't been officially given that due date because we have not been officially reclassified yet. So
Okay.
theoretically, though, there's a rule out there that says any reclassified area, the due date would be January 1st, 2026. Yeah.
And speculating,
Yes.
if January 2026 is that date that SIP is due, when do you expect a draft?
Right. So if everything goes to plan, a draft of the entire SIP would be available September.
Wow.
But yes, I know it's very ambitious, very ambitious. And we'll be providing monthly updates to the committee on serious area plan development. I wouldn't be surprised if we're a little bit late on that. One big component with that we're doing alongside this research is we've hired a regional council executive committee, selected Rambles America to do our 179B demonstration of international emissions, the impact from Mexico and Asia on our ozone concentration. So that's going to be going in parallel as well while we do the SIP. So we have a lot of balls in the air, and we want to make sure all those things come together and support each other and make a cohesive story. So it's a lot of work, and then responding to any new administrative changes that might happen from EPA, any new direction we get from them as well.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you, Matt. We appreciate all of the efforts that everyone is taking because it is short timelines, and we'll do the best we can. Our next item is item number 6, request for future agenda items. An opportunity will be provided for the committee members to request topics or issues of interest they would like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting. Are there any requests from the membership for an item on a future agenda? And if you can't think of one now, be sure you can always email MAG staff and they can put that on at a future meeting. Great. So now we're on to adjournment. I have to say that was a really good presentation, but one of the shorter ones we've had most recently. So the next meeting of the Air Quality Technical Advisory Committee will be on Thursday, March 27th at 1:30 p.m. Business is now concluded. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved, Tim Connor.
Thank you, Tim.
Second.
And Nancy is second. So the meeting is now adjourned. Thank you very much.